Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the Hänssler Haydn Symphony cycle. I mean, this is really a big deal. A small independent label issues the complete Haydn symphonies. It's not something that happens every day. Both the release and the execution of this mostly admirable cycle is really kind of bittersweet. We should take a moment to sort of explain why and talk about where we are in the universe of recorded music. And then we can talk about the quality of the individual set. The performances feature the Heidelberg Symphony, the Heidelberger Symphoniker, mostly under Thomas Fey, and then completed by Johannes Klump. Now, Fey started out really like gangbusters. He was a pupil of Harnoncourt, and the first releases in this series were very, very exciting. He does most of the symphonies. Klumpp does about, I think, 26 of them, or 23, 26, I believe. And Fey does the rest. As the cycle went on, Fey became more rigid, a little bit more interested in speed at all costs. And unfortunately, some of the performances really reflect that, including some of the late London symphonies, which is a real pity because, these Paris symphonies are fabulous. They're really, really good. And half the London symphonies are really, really good, but some of them, like the Military Symphony, are just terrible. And it's just a tragedy, really. And his career was tragic. Apparently, he had some issues with drinking and other stuff. I mean, I don't want to try and smear his name, but he fell down a flight of stairs. He injured himself severely, and he retired from conducting. And his career was over. And whatever brought it on, I don't know. But I do believe that you can hear that in that increasing sort of rigidity of approach in some of these performances. Some of them in the earlier symphonies, he started using a harpsichord continuo, but it's not terrible. I mean, it's really not terrible. And the playing of the orchestra is always at a very, very high level. So that's okay. Klumpp, when he came in, did a very good job finishing up the cycle. He's more level-headed than Fey was, I think. And one of the bonuses of this set is that you get the Symphony D Est in C major. That is, there is now another symphony, number 108, although I don't think there's 106. But, anyway, it doesn't really matter. There's another one, which was assembled from various movements. It's existed in manuscript in various forms and shapes. And so the Haydn people who were doing the complete edition added it to their catalog, and it's in here. So that's nice. Klumpp does it. And, okay, so you've got on 36 CDs the complete Haydn symphonies. Now, what about the quality of the performances? As I said, Fey himself was variable, but the approach was consistent. If you like that period instrument type approach, although the Heidelberg Symphoniker is not a period instrument band by and large, but they play in that way. So it as good as makes no difference. And I think on the whole, and I'm talking on the whole, having heard the whole thing at this point, that it's just about as good as the Dorati set. It really is. I mean, in terms of consistency and overall quality, Dorati has his hits and misses, as everybody will in Haydn symphonies. And Fey has his hits and misses. The question is, how do you define a miss? With Dorati, it was sometimes evident in, variable sonics from one volume to the next. Here, the sonics are very, very consistent and very, very good for the most part. But, it depends on how you look at that. Dorati's very slow minuets could be annoying sometimes. Compared to a lot of the period instrument groups, some of the Dorati performances lack a certain dazzle, despite the fact that they are at a consistently high level. And these have opposite qualities. They can be too fast. They can be somewhat cold and inexpressive in the slow movements, the lack of vibrato in the strings, which is nonsensical, as we all know, especially if you're not using a continuo. I mean, you want to have some warmth to the tone, and all of those things. And so you may, when they're good, they're very good. When they're not good, those defects become annoying. And that's true. But if you look at the other complete Haydn symphony cycles out there, you've got Fischer, who has good sort of middle period and early stuff, but also his own habits. On Nimbus, his use of solo strings and all the trios of the minuets, which is ridiculous. His horrible London symphonies, the last 12, which are recorded like in an echo chamber. So there's that. And then you've got, Merzendorfer or whatever his name is. I mean, they're sonically second rate. The orchestra is also second rate. There's the dreadful, absolutely dreadful Dennis Russell Davies cycle on Sony, which sounds like everyone's just sleepwalking through the entire cycle. There's the partly period instrument Hogwood period instrument set on the Loiselier. Hogwood is just bad in a lot of these pieces, and his tendency is to use the least interesting editions of every symphony, the ones with the smallest forces, the ones without the optional trumpets and drums. It's just not that great. I mean, everyone's got their issues. That's the bottom line. And so if you have Dorati for an alternative view, this would be the one to get. Now, of course, we also know that there's the set coming out on Alpha with, who is it, the Zurich Chamber Orchestra, and what's his name, Antonini, which also has its pluses and minuses. I mean, it's got its good things and its less good things. And that's going to be completed in like 2030 something, 2032, I don't know. So in the meantime, if you're looking for a modern Haydn cycle, that has really high playing standards and a generally consistent approach, this is a terrific deal. It really is. If I say we're still waiting for an ideal Haydn cycle, that would be a stupid remark, because we will always be waiting for an ideal Haydn cycle, because the music itself is simply too voluminous, too varied, too extraordinary in its range for any one person so far to encompass all of it. Maybe someday it will happen. Who knows? I don't think I'll live to see it. And for that reason, I think we need to be practical. I really do. And I find this to be a pretty powerful statement. And more to the point, and this is the thing that really gets me, for Hänssler to do this is a labor of love and a tremendous effort. And back in the day, I remember when Hänssler completed their Bach edition. It was the first complete Bach edition. And they had, because I was there, a huge celebration. I mean, they invited people to Germany. We all flew in. They had a huge presentation. The edition itself came in a bookcase. I mean, now it's all been condensed down to like one long box, But it was really an extraordinary thing. And the entire world of classical music and classical music recordings was on hand to celebrate that achievement. Frankly, the same thing should be true of this. It really should be. I mean, this is an incredible achievement by any standard, whether you agree or disagree with the performance, approach or not, on a work-by-work basis. But nobody cares now. Nobody's paying attention. Nobody has money. Nobody can afford to invest in the promotion and making people aware of something really, really extraordinary and exciting happening in the world of classical recordings. And I just think that's a terrible, terrible shame. I really do. And for that reason alone, I would recommend this, quite frankly, because projects like this need to be supported. Whether or not I like everything that Faye did is almost irrelevant, because the desire was there. The vision was there. The ability to get it done was there, and to get it done with real conviction. I'm willing to set aside my own personal feelings about some of these performances just to give Hänssler a serious vote of congratulations for having achieved this milestone and a landmark in the history of Haydn symphony recordings. I mean, it just is. And so it should be supported for that reason. And there's going to be a lot that you're going to love and some stuff that you won't, probably. It's my thought. But that doesn't diminish the achievement, in my view. So keep on listening, friends. Thank you so much for joining me, and kudos to Hänssler for seeing this project through to completion when truly terrible things happened along the way. But they did it. And that in this day and age, that's really extraordinary. Take care.